Hello everyone and welcome down to episode number 14 of the Down South Photo Show with me, Brendan Waits, and my good mate Cameron Blake down there in Hobart Town. Good evening, Cameron.
Good evening, Brendan. How are you this evening?
That would be evening our time. I don't know when our listeners and viewers are watching and listening to this, but yeah, very well, thank you.
That'd be an interesting stat, wouldn't it, when people listen to our... We could probably pull that stat out, can't we, on YouTube? I don't know.
Someone with any level of intelligence would probably be able to do that. So that precludes me and probably, you might be able to do it.
We'll have a look. But I'm going well. Had a couple of nice days down here. We had a bit of snow over the weekend, which is cool, and like literally. Yeah. And we're going well at the moment. So you must be a happy little camper based on some sporting events that may have happened.
Yes, it's a new era in my life, and that is getting to see the D's be short price favourites to win the premiership, which is bloody ridiculous. And I don't believe it for a second.
Well, they're going to get smashed by at least 20 goals, I said. Yes. So unfortunately, this isn't your year.
Yep.
But it's a good feeling anyway.
No, it's good. It's great. It's good. Good vibe. All the family are Melbourne supporters as well. So my daughter, who's just turned...
She's mad D's.
Mad D's, just turned 15. She was convinced early days that it was all her fault. Yeah, because the year she was born was the year we stopped making finals. So,
So she's taken responsibility.
She has. Yeah, but it's wonderful. Absolutely fantastic. I can't believe we've got to wait 2 weeks. And... but jumping out of our skins. We've hit another little milestone, over 180 subscribers now on our YouTube channel, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks to everyone who has liked, subscribed, shared, left a comment, spoken to us, watched the live shows. It's been really cool.
Live shows. Spoke around the water cooler about it at work, even though no one's really at work anymore because everyone's in lockdown still, but, you get the gist.
A water cooler's a thing?
They are. They actually are. Where I used to work, they had water coolers that had unfiltered water, tap temperature water, and cold freezing water. So you had a choice of three. Mm-hmm. And that certainly took up your 15-minute break.
Was that my taxpayers' money at work?
It would have been, yeah.
I wonder where it went.
Had to bring my own glass, though. But 183 subscribers is awesome. I'm hoping we can try and crank it up to 200. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So if you are listening and you haven't told your mates or friends or family or your camera club or your local whatever, make sure you share it around either on podcasting or on the YouTube.
Yes.
Get it out there. Let's get up to 200.
Speaking of, I've been approached by 2 different camera clubs to talk to them over the coming weeks, and you're going to ask me who.
Not to sponsor us, I mean.
Not to sponsor us. You're probably going to ask me who, but I can't remember who they are, so don't ask me right now. I'll tell you later on.
Right. I won't ask you who they are, but
thank you.
But that's good.
Yeah, and a third one has approached me for judging their monthly competition, which is pretty cool. I don't mind doing that sort of stuff. So, cool. Particularly in COVID times, because it means I don't have to leave my house to do it.
Yeah, well, that's what I've done a couple of talks recently, and again, you just get on the same thing we're doing here with a Zoom and get on there and have a chat to people. It's the next best thing to being there in person. So yeah, that's cool. That'll be good fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to doing that. So what have we been up to this week? It's been another tough week for people in Victoria, Melbourne in particular, still under lockdown conditions, and people in Sydney, of course, still under lockdown conditions. Yeah. Canberra, ACT's been extended for another month for lockdown, which is just goes on and on and on. But as we hope, light at the end of the tunnel with vaccination rates starting to get somewhere near where they need to be. So we're going to...
It sort of feels like, I guess for us it's not a big difference down here, but sort of feels like it's getting towards the pointy end of all this where they're going to make a decision to, once everyone's vaccinated, 70%, 80%, all right, back to as normal as we can and go from there. So
I think
that's quick.
I think it's important for humans to have some kind of goal or a target, and I'm glad that they've initially, rather than setting a date and saying we're coming out at this date, they've actually set a vaccination target, which is way smarter. That's why they run the country and I don't. So as I say, it's good to have a target that we're aiming for. It's hit pretty close to home this week. There's been a COVID outbreak in Ocean Grove where we live. We had a lovely person decide to come out of Melbourne to go to the Coles supermarket in Ocean Grove. One of the managers decided to pop down and visit everyone in Coles in Ocean Grove, and so we're in that sort of grey area at the moment where everyone's being tested. A staff member of mine also works part-time at Coles, so we've had to close the shop until he gets a negative result, which at this point on a Wednesday night we still haven't received. So, but there has been more testing done on the Bellarine Peninsula than ever before, so understandably there's a bit of a backlog in getting those tests through. So, but I tell you, if it wasn't already real enough, it just takes it to that next level again.
Yeah. So your week's been quite eventful then.
It has. It's been full on. We came out of lockdown. We were able to operate for a couple of days, and now I've had to close the shop here in Ocean Grove. Fortunately enough, the shop in Torquay is at the moment not involved with an exposure site, so we're able to. So I was actually spent my time over there the last couple of days. I've had no contact at all with my staff member who has potentially had exposure. So luckily, we've managed to sort of dodge a little bullet there. But anyway, we'll see what happens over the next few days once we get the results start to come back in.
Fingers crossed for your staff member and you, and hopefully everything down there just clears up. And that's
thanks,
crazy.
Mate. And the city of Ballarat has gone back into lockdown again today as well. So anyway, it's all happening. There's enough about that. We know.
We've now become the COVID photo show.
But fortunately,
get your latest updates from
yeah, that's right. Fortunately, on Sunday, before all that crap went down, I was able to venture out into a couple of areas I hadn't been before and managed to take some photos, which was fantastic. I went into an area near Ballan in sort of between Bacchus Marsh and Ballarat. In sort of central Victoria there, and it blew me away. I didn't actually realise the number of wind farms they have there now. It's like it's been forever since I've been in that area. And they've got those really big ones, the big three-bladed ones, which are... They're actually quite imposing, intimidating to look at.
Have you ever seen them transport them to where they build them? We have them down here on the west coast and the northeast coast of Tassie and a few other places, and I've come across them on the highway a few times coming down, and they are just huge. Like you literally are off the freeway. Why these 4 or 5 semi trailers come down with the big blades, and you got a semi trailer at the front, and then it's got another secondary trailer 200 meters back down the road. It's
amazing.
Incredible to see. So they're cool.
I would actually like to see one being assembled. It'd be pretty cool. And where I went to, beautiful. Like they've had so much rain, so that all the fields are green, and of course there was canola fields as well. So the colours were stunning. We had one of those beautiful blue sky days with the little fluffy white clouds. So managed to.
So clearly you've got images to share with us then.
I haven't even got them. I haven't even got close to editing them yet because of everything else that's been going on, but I will hopefully be able to pluck out a couple of images to show you. Now, if they're any good, they'll appear on the screen. If right now all you're seeing is a black little square, that means the photos were terrible. So
space holder.
So I did a couple of shoots with my SLR gear, but also the drone, because I just thought it'd be cool to buzz a couple of those big wind. What do you call them? Windmills, wind turbines with the drone. So it was a hell of a lot of fun. So I was able to finally get behind the camera again, which sort of gets the juices going. So looking forward to doing some more.
Blow the dust out a bit.
Yep. And you went out in the snow?
Yeah, I had a Olympus day. So one of the days that we do with all the Olympus gear, and then I had a secondary day on the Sunday just with more just a sort of hands-on basic sort of workshop type of thing. We had some snow at Cradle Mountain, so
fantastic.
The Saturday was a bit wet, but perfect for the Olympus gear because it's all weatherproof. And then the Sunday, came down quite a lot in snow. So we had a group on Sunday that just got caked in snow all day long, and waterfalls, wombats, beautiful forests. Cradle Mountain popped out. We had these sort of passing sun showers and sort of snow showers passing in between clear skies. So we got some really nice shots.
So when you say you have an Olympus Day, is that for people to try lenses or bodies or both?
Yeah, so Olympus Australia have been very kind to give me a whole bag of gear. So I've got pretty much all the pro lenses and any lens you want to think of. And they've also allowed me to borrow like an EM5, EM10, EM1, Mark 3, the EM1X. So I've got a real kit. So it's enough gear to probably allow 6 people to play around with a camera all day. And really, it's really honestly not a sales plug. It's if you want to come along for a day out and you want to try another brand out, or if you've already got Olympus and you want to try a few different lenses, or want to maybe upgrade your body or something like that. It's just a perfect way to get your hands on it and play around with it for a few hours and see what you think. There's, like I said, absolutely no obligation for people to buy anything. But yeah, we have a good time, and we seem to always get conditions. I had a gentleman who's been on another one asked me if I was the snow whisperer, because every time we do an Olympus Day, we seem to get snow where we go. So yeah, it was a really good day. We had a great time, and it was good to spend a bit of time at Cradle Mountain again. And it's just the kind of place that I just keep going back to and just keep falling in love with. It's just so nice, and we had hundreds of wombats walking around us, and the snow showers are great. So it was really nice.
That's very, very cool.
So not to rub it into people who can't get out at the moment, but
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And to that end, I can't help but notice how fabulous you look tonight, Cameron.
Thank you.
So apparently,
listeners.
if you're on YouTube at the moment and you think Cameron looks fabulous, there's a reason behind that, isn't there?
There is. I've gone from using my little Mac computer webcam-y thing, but now I've actually hooked up an Olympus EM1 Mark III as my webcam, and I'm getting recorded in 4K, which is scary. Because you're probably seeing a lot more of me than usual, and I've actually got myself some proper lighting, so we're sort of feeling like we're doing a proper show here.
The lighting definitely comes off really well. Of course, everything's still got to get crammed down through Zoom, so man,
that's true.
But no, you look lovely.
Thanks, mate. Yes, I would say the same to you,
but that's impossible. So we've got a couple of really cool topics to talk about tonight. Our first topic's going to be what our favourite seasons are to shoot in. I think it's fairly obvious where we're going to go with that. And then we're also going to talk about our favourite YouTubers, photography-based YouTubers, I guess, with a little bit of mayo put on top of that as well. So... And then a little bit later on, we're going to talk a little bit more about my search for a new camera, which will be a very, very brief segment. We've also got a Dear Cam segment coming up as well, so stay tuned for that.
Look out.
So I think we want to start off with, I'm going to kick it off with you, Cam. What is your favourite, or what you consider the best season to shoot in?
For me, it's a pretty easy one. It is an easy one, but it sort of crosses over into another sort of season. But to me, hands down for landscape photography, it's got to be the season of autumn. You get those amazing colours. You get some interest down here in Tassie. We get some really cool weather. You might get a bit of a snow dump on the mountains. We seem to get really nice sort of warm sunsets and sunrises. So obviously the sun's starting to make its way away from the Earth in its rotation. So you start getting different sort of sunsets, different sort of colour temperatures in the sky. But for me, autumn's always been a great period of time. Even from when I was a young bloke, sort of visiting Bright in northeast Victoria, that's an absolute mecca for autumn colours. And then down here in Tassie, we've got obviously the autumn colours down here, but we also have a really unique plant called the fagus tree, which is Australia's only winter deciduous tree. But it's a really cool, it's a shrubbery or a tree. It can sort of grow to different sizes, but it's got these little tiny leaves, and they look like little crimple cut chips, but they go orange, red, yellow, green. They have all these amazing colours, and the whole landscape in the alpine regions down here changes. So but for me, autumn moving into winter is a really great period of time. So down here, Anzac Day or into the first week of May is a really good time to visit Tassie if you like your autumn colours. But it's a beautiful season, beautiful colours, the weather's a bit more variable. Such a nice season. I named my daughter after autumn.
You sure did.
I sure did. Yeah. So we think it's a beautiful time of year.
Yeah. Does she turn orange?
No, she doesn't. Nor yellow nor red.
And I'm glad. I'm glad you mentioned that because for years, autumn always seems to be, the most attractive and the time to take photos. You get the colours and all that. I totally understand that. But for ages, I always got it wrong. Like I would always kind of go to the high country too early or go too late and never quite. But you're exactly right. Anzac Day is the day when I think it's probably at its best. Which, when you think about it, that's relatively late in autumn. So it's the end of April. We're starting to roll into May. But generally speaking, whenever I've been to Bright in particular and all the high country areas, that's when it looks amazing. I mean, it's a little bit ironic that as Australian-based landscape photographers, we chase the autumn colours, most of which are introduced species.
Well, we've only got, there's only 2, if not 3, deciduous Australian plants. I think there's only 2 actually. One of them is the fagus tree, which is the Nonophagus something, whatever the can't think of the last bit, but that's the Tasmanian version. And like I said, it's like this creepy crawly thing. It crawls over the rocks, but it could also grow up to 20 metres high. And the other deciduous tree is in northern Queensland, in tropical Queensland.
Right.
So there's nothing in between. So all the poplars and all the other colours that we see, they're all introduced, as you say. But like my grandparents lived in Bright for many, many years, and my grandmother was, she was the eyes on the ground. Cam, you got to come up here. The colours are changing now. And I'll be like, right, next weekend I'm up there with a bag full of film, and away we go.
Yeah, and that's the good thing about the high country, particularly or around the Bright area, is it's not like the colours happen and then the next day they're gone. You get a run of about 3 weeks or so where they're at their absolute peak. But as we say, it normally is around Anzac Day time. Yeah.
Well, I do an autumn festival, an autumn workshop up in Bright, and it coincides with the autumn festival, which is around about the first week of May. And this year I had a bit of a panic attack because we went up there, and I saw some photos in the lead up to it, and the colour was incredible. Sort of around Anzac Day or a week before, and I'm like, God, this whole workshop, I've got people going, I hope the colour's still there. And we got up there, and it was the best colour I'd seen in decades. Right. The reds were just, every colour was on fire. Everything was just so saturated, and I think something else that works really well up in Bright as well is that they get a fair bit of dust and stuff when they do burn-offs around that time of year. But when you get the rain coming through, it washes all the leaves off, and all the leaves get that colour back. So I'm really actually torn in the season of autumn, because Tassie's amazing for it, for the fagus tree and the other colours that we have down here. But then northeast Victoria, or even is it Dalesford out that way, he's got some beautiful colours in Victoria. So, and I'm sure there's other places around Tassie where there's incredible colours that time of year. But it's a tricky one. You go, do I stay or do I go back to the Big Island? But yeah.
Well, I think what this means is, in 6 months' time, when it is rolling actually into autumn, we might have to revisit this podcast and talk a bit more about our favourite spots where we go in autumn. Because speaking of Dalesford, Dalesford's magic. It's absolutely brilliant. It's a lot closer for me to get to there as well. There's a spot there called Jubilee Lake, which is absolutely amazing. It's just surrounded by all the introduced species, mostly English, I would imagine.
I'd say so.
All through there, and you get the yellows in particular around Jubilee Lake. Absolutely stunning. So when you are lucky enough to get into these areas where you've got the autumn colours happening, is there a particular sort of way you like to shoot? Is it more your, like, for example, do you like to get the drone out, or do you look at using the autumn colours as a background, or are they the actual main focus of the shot?
I think when I'm looking again down here in Tassie, again it's almost two worlds. Like Tassie down here, this fagus tree, which anyone that's listening, if you just type in fagus, Fagus, fagus tree Tasmania, you'll see what I'm talking about, and it's just this incredible creepy crawly sort of tree that just is just really gnarly.
I'm betting you've got a shot of one, and I'm betting I'll put it up on the screen.
Right, yeah, there
Beautiful.
it is. So that's a Fagus tree for the people watching. For the people podcasting, they can just Google that. But so the Fagus tree, it has a lot of detail on the leaves, and the trunks of these trees just look ancient. So to me, when I'm shooting in Tasmania in autumn time, that Fagus tree, I'm using that as almost my sort of foreground interest of my shots, because it's a creepy crawly type of thing. It crawls over the rocks and crawls into your background, or might crawl up a rock face and stuff like that. So in Tassie, it's more about attention to detail. So it's more filling the frame up with these gnarly trees. Whereas when I'm shooting in Victoria, it is more about the colour in the landscape. So especially when we go to Bright, we generally go up a bit higher in the foothills and just shoot down into town, and have all those beautiful avenues of roads with all the trees. So it becomes more, I guess you could say it becomes more of an urban sort of scene, where those trees are all incorporated into little towns. So it's a bit of both, a bit of attention to detail, and getting that real beautiful detail in the Fagus tree. But then with the poplars and all those kind of stuff, it's more about how it incorporates into the landscape, whether or not it's a beautiful river lined with trees, or like you said, a lake. There's a really good lake at Mount Beauty, that if you get a really still day and Mount Bogon and Feathertop have got snow on them, you can get the beautiful reflections of the mountains in the water, but the whole lake's littered with poplars and colour. So they become more of a wider scope of an image in that sense. And definitely, I still, again, talking about polarising filters on the weekend, still keep your polarising filter on, because every single one of those leaves is reflecting some sort of skylight, and that's where you lose a lot of that pure, intense, saturated colour. So make sure you keep your polarizers on for it as well, because you'll get so much more richer colours out of those shots.
Yeah, that's very good advice. I think Bright in particular sort of, for me, wins for the best spot to go in autumn, and it's because of the diversity. So as you say, you can get yourself high pretty quickly, in a physical sense, and also what is it? It's the avenue or something. What's that called? The canyon.
The canyon walk. The one that goes. Yeah, you can walk around. So the main river it runs through, which is the Ovens River, and then there's the Mauses River as well. But the thing about Bright that's really cool is a lot of those trees are very old as well, because they're obviously put there when, we're talking goldfield days when, they were all planted. So they've got a lot of history to them. So Bright, anywhere you go in Bright, even out to Wandillagong, out to Harrietville, any of those little valleys you go out to. The other thing I love about Bright as well that time of year is out in the Buckland Valley, which is the valley that's below Mount Buffalo. All the vineyards out there, all those leaves change colour, so you can get some incredible scenery out there. But Bright's got so much; it packs a huge punch. And then, if you had enough of colour, you've got one of the best mountains in Australia for photography right on your doorstep with Mount Buffalo.
Which is a good lead into what we'll be talking about a little bit later on with the Bright Festival of Photography that you're going to talk about towards the end of this podcast as well. So look, obviously autumn is absolutely brilliant for shooting landscapes, but for me, being based where I am, it's got to be summer. Being based coastal Australia, the summer conditions we get here, particularly when we do get a classic Victorian 40 odd degree day, which I miss them. Which, to be frank, we haven't seemed to have had as many of late. I think last summer we only got about 3 or 4 of them. I always seem to remember growing up, because I grew up in northwestern Victoria, up around Swan Hill, and if it wasn't 40 degrees on Christmas Day, it wasn't Christmas. And that incredible dry heat that you get that just blows right across the continent of Australia.
Ends up in Melbourne.
Or and in Ocean Grove and these sort of places. But you get down onto the beach I'm talking the height of summer here, so early January, late December, or even early mid-January, and getting into early Feb, and you get those really hot northerly winds. But normally when the sun gets down to half an hour before sunset, the breeze drops off completely, and you get this beautiful calmness, and quite often you'll get like little tidal pools and stuff that'll happen in summer, because generally speaking in summer you don't get as rougher conditions, so the beach isn't as torn up, so you can get these little tidal pools and stuff, particularly at low tide around the rocks.
Yeah.
And the great thing about here is if you get down on the beach runs east-west, so you can shoot along the beach to the sunset, and particularly looking towards Barwon Heads. And if you get over to 13th Beach and those sort of areas on stinking hot days, you get the best sunsets, and you get it just seems to be a really clean colour or a really clean light. I don't know if I'm explaining that very well, but it seems to be really crisp, and I generally get my best photos in summer in a coastal scenario. But I've got the bonus of being able to head to places in autumn as well. And generally speaking, for me, my camera goes away in winter. I don't get the snow here, so
that'd be talking about, like, winter would be probably my second favourite season. I love, even the shot behind me here was taken last week as well with some snow we had, but I find there's nothing better than getting in the back country in winter, where, I've been in some situations where I'm up to my knees in snow, up to my waist in some situations in snow, but around the mountains here in Tassie, just everything comes to life. It's just a spectacular place. And same went up in the high country of New South Wales and Victoria there. The old snow gums up there and the huts and stuff like that. So I always try and teach as well, like, don't be a fair weather photographer. So the crappier the weather it gets, the more I get out in it, and I think that's played a big part in my images getting better over the years. Is that I've actually put myself not in harm's way, but I put myself in the way of Mother Nature more frequently, and it just pays dividends. Like sometimes you come home cold, wet, and miserable. Other times you come home with some absolute cracking images that no one's ever got before, and So your autumn, summer. I'm probably autumn, winter.
Yeah.
The disadvantage, if there is one, of living down here in Tassie in summer is we get like almost like a 4:30 sunrise.
Yeah.
And it's like a 9:45 sunset. It's like stupidly long days. So you can spend a lot of time, but waiting for sunset here just becomes depends who you're out with, becomes a drink-a-thon really, just to see, just drink as much as you can until the sun goes down.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. I guess coastal always sort of suits summer anyway. You get the beautiful skies and beaches and things like that. So it makes sense that summer would be your season.
Yeah, it sounds like your drinking has a photography problem.
It does. Actually, not so much these days. I'm pretty good these days. Although the Bright Festival of Photography, that generally, I even employ myself a helper for that. So they drive and I can relax and drink a bit.
You get yourself a designated driver.
I do.
Okay.
So anyway,
we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. So that's those seasons for us, I think. And I guess we live in an amazing country, and I don't think you don't need to be a rocket scientist to realise that. As a photographer, we live in one of the prettiest countries in the world. So
yeah, we've got it pretty lucky, and I think we very quickly take it for granted. I know I do. Particularly, I was actually even just talking to a friend of mine yesterday. We were down close to the beach at Ocean Grove, and we're like, we'll just have a look at this. Like, this is, do you know how much people would love to live where we do, let alone be landscape photographers in this kind of area. I mean, it's literally on our doorstep, so we do feel pretty lucky. I mean, then again, I suppose we planned it, and it's luck is what you make. But we are very, very lucky to be where we are, and to be able to experience all the different seasons in one spot as well is pretty cool. So, and I know this year, and I've already talked about this in the podcast, but it's been a particularly wet year this year as well. So we're getting, there's a certain lushness down around the beach now as well. A lot of the beach grasses and stuff like that are growing really well, and they've got really striking colour to them now as well. And which is probably leads me to my I suppose third favourite season, which is spring. But here we don't get a lot of the wildflowers and stuff like that you would get in bushland. So I know even as close to me as places like the Grampians, and we have the little desert, which isn't that far really away from us. You can get blankets of wildflowers here in Australia as well, which are absolutely stunning. And talk about colour, complete contrast to what you get in autumn. You get this, you're talking pinks and reds and this sort of like really stunning colours, and also contrasted against the green of, as I say, so much lushness that's going on around southeastern Australia at the moment. Yeah,
definitely. There's been a lot of rain, and like we have some wildflowers down here as well. We have, depending where you are, you can go up pretty high in altitude and get into what they call the scoparia fields. Scoparia, it's this, again, it's like this pink, red, orange, white, sort of sometimes yellow, I think, as well, flower. But the kicker with that tree is you go up to photograph, and it's like walking through a bloody minefield of prickles. It's like the most harsh bush you can. It looks beautiful, but don't go walking anywhere near it because it'll just rip your pants to shreds.
Oh, right, okay.
Well, so I was talking to some people on the weekend, and they're like, "You've got to get Brendan to come down to Tassie and show him around a bit." And I'm like, "Yeah, we do." So you have to once you get some time.
Brendan will get to Tasmania. It's a given. Once I'm allowed to, I'll head down there for sure. That'd be great. Might have to bring the golf clubs as well.
Please do. I think we could squeeze that in.
You reckon we could find? But getting back to things like flowers and when you get to see, you go to national parks or you go to state reserves and that sort of stuff. I turn into a kid in a toy store. It's like where am I going to point my camera next? And I love, particularly with flowers, I love that look that you can achieve with either a zoom lens or a lens with a very shallow depth of field, like f2.8, f2, that sort of stuff, where you are really blurring out backgrounds and properly highlighting flowers and stuff, and particularly the colour in those flowers. So that's where I get really excited. Also around autumn too, like with the colours you get at autumn time. But seeing that flowers in the wild, there's something really cool about that. Yeah,
I agree. There is, and that's like I went to the Flinders Ranges this year, and I put a couple of workshops up, but one of them I put in September because I just want to go and experience, because the wildflowers throughout back Australia again are just a different kettle of fish altogether, just different, bit more rustic colours but still vibrant, So I think no matter where you are in Australia, any season you should be able to get out and take shots that are really nice. And I'm sure people might be listening from Queensland or WA or South Australia. Like, they'll probably have their own sort of favourite season that suits where they live as well. So I think you will tailor what season you like best as to where you live and what you like shooting. But any time of year with a camera in your hand and you can get out, it's generally good.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's right, exactly. We're as I say, we're pretty lucky to be able to do that. So we wanted to also talk a little bit tonight about maybe a little bit of inspiration other than just us two prattling on all the time. Believe it or not, there are other photographers on YouTube.
No, is there?
Apparently so. And there's.
I thought we were the only show on YouTube.
Well, that's right. 183 subscribers can't be wrong.
That's right. 200 now. Do
you know there's people out there with 18 million subscribers?
Yeah.
and plus.
It's a funny thing, YouTube, and this will roll into what we're going to talk about. But I love doing. I like the idea of doing. I love what we're doing. I reckon it's great fun, and like I said, we get to catch up and record it. But I really admire the guys that can go out and put like a production together of their photographic journey. And I've got. It's funny. I've got actually a hard drive full of. Every time I sort of go out to do a photo shoot or an adventure, I always take video. Because I always have this idea, I'm going to come back and I'm going to put these really cool videos and make them Hollywood style and really get my adventures out there so people who may not be able to get out can see where I go. And I just get lost in the whole process of trying to make interesting videos, and it's like a real storytelling to it. There's so many people out there doing such a good job, and to be able to have that many people watching what you do, I think it must be an incredible feeling. Yeah,
so we sort of put our thinking caps on and came up with our three sort of well, not necessarily favourite YouTubers, but certainly ones that we watch quite often to sort of keep the inspirational juices flowing, I suppose. So, Cam, what would be your first pick?
So the first, we'll go one for one here.
Do it.
Because I might change one of mine up. I'm just trying to, I'm thinking I might change one. First up, there's a gentleman in America, I think he's on the west coast of America. His name's Ben Horn. And he does pure landscape photography with a large 8x10 large format film camera. So not much digital stuff. I still think he does his digital stuff, but I got onto his work. I obviously got a large format camera I like shooting film on as well, and I got onto him just through searching through YouTube. I think it was I came across his channel, but he's a really, really good storyteller. He goes to some beautiful spots. He sort of goes to the same spots each year and sort of relives the spots and gets different shots. And because he's shooting on film, it's a lot more precise on what he's doing. But he's just a really great storyteller, takes incredibly beautiful images on a film. I've sort of messaged him. We've had a couple of messages over YouTube. He's very responsive to people that are interested in what he does. But I think just the way he tells his stories, and it's a real adventure. Like, you actually sort of feel like you want to sit there and watch it. So he's probably one of the only guys on YouTube that I'll actually put on my big screen in the lounge room on Saturday morning, have some brekkie, and watch an episode that he brings out, because he just does a really good job of sort of capturing where he goes. So Ben Horn, we'll put all the links to these guys in our description as well. But Ben Horn, if you're watching, Ben, congratulations on having such a great career. But
I mean, if he's watching.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, hi Ben. How you going?
All these people we're going to mention will be watching.
I'm sure they will be. But I find him, he's very much an inspiration for me to go out and do more film. And just looking at how he shoots and his eye for detail, and he's really cool. So check him out. He's definitely worth watching. And the one thing I do like about him on his channel as well, he doesn't have any adverts, or it's not monetized. So he doesn't actually make any money off his videos. He just does them for the love of it and gets it out there. So one to check out.
Well, I think that's very admirable and quite unique in this day and age, because I would have thought the vast majority of YouTubers would have monetized their channels once they get the kind of viewership they need. Yeah. So I think probably flowing on from Ben Horn, I have seen a bit of Ben's stuff. He's very, very cool. And a guy in a similar sort of vein is Nick Carver, who is also based in the US on the West Coast. And similar to Ben, he shoots a fair amount of film. And this guy actually knows his film inside out. He's almost gets scientific with his description when he's talking about when he shoots film. And it's really good for me, because I've never been in a dark room, and I've shot a lot of film, but I've never done the processing side of stuff. He talks a lot about the processing side, so it teaches me a lot about it, because through my business, I now sell quite a bit of film, so it's good for me to know, when people come in and start using these weird terminology, I can sort of fall back on what good old Nick Carver's taught me. And similar to Ben, he's actually quite responsive to his viewers on YouTube as well. I've had a few conversations with Nick. He's a big fan of like those all Aussie adventures shows, like the off-road. That he loves that kind of stuff, and he's been dying to get to Australia. So I always tell him, like, when he's more than welcome to hook up with us at some point if he ever wants to do that. So
here's an idea.
Yeah.
Why don't we get him on as a guest?
A collaboration.
Get him on as a guest.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll. No, he might. He might. He's watching, so
he's clearly watching. So Nick,
yeah.
Would you like to be our very first guest on the Down South Photo Show?
Goodness me, could you imagine? That would be awesome.
You'd be a bubbling mess, I reckon.
How the hell? I'm a total fanboy. How the hell would we? The technology I would have to learn. I don't know how to do this with just the two of us.
Well,
we get a third.
The good thing, the interesting thing, if we got Nick on here or even Ben on here, either one, you're welcome as well, Ben. If the time difference, so we'd either have to stay up really late, or they'd have to be up
really early.
Yeah. So, but we
all know they're going to get up really early. We aren't. No. This is our show.
We're not going to go. That's right. Can you imagine if one of them came on here?
That'd be great. It'd be great.
All right, I'm going to put the feelers out there. Surely we can contact them.
Well,
but I've seen. Sorry?
You go ahead. I was going to say, why don't you put your second YouTuber out there?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I've also seen Nick's work, and and the thing I like about Nick as well, he's got a real... now that you've said that he likes the All Aussie shows and likes it, I can sort of get a bit of a feel from that. He's got a really sort of wicked sense of humour.
Yeah, he does.
Which I think is pretty cool. So... and I think as a photographer, you've got to have some sense of humour, because sometimes that's the only thing that gets you through the day. The next one I'm going to put out there is James Popsys. Is that how we pronounce
Popsys.
it? Popsys. So Popsys. Again, I came across James's YouTube channel, again, just as we all do. You just search around and see what's going on. But the thing that struck me about him is, again, just going back to that sense of humour. He's got a really sort of funny, laid-back, comical way of putting his videos together, and takes a lovely photograph on top of that. Obviously it's a bonus, but to me it's more... I was actually just watching one of his episodes before we came online, and he was talking about how he's sleep deprived because he's had a new child, and but just the way he goes about it, he just sort of feels like he's an everyday kind of photographer like us guys, and but his work's really interesting. I think he's more tailored to maybe the beginner and entry level of photographers, and seems to give out a lot of really handy tips and information to people. He was shooting on mirrorless cameras for a while. I think he still is. But I always find his light-hearted approach to photography relates with how I like to do things when I'm teaching, and the workshops I run as well. So yeah, James is a really good one. And again, he's got a great following. I think he's got like 200,000 people following him, and but he's never short of a bit of a chuckle, and if anything, again, maybe this is this Aussie humour coming out of it, but he's quite happy and regularly takes the piss out of himself.
Yeah, I was going to say that's what he does actually quite well. He knows when he's made a mistake, and he's happy to own it, and he's a funny guy. His delivery is fantastic. So you've gone from an American to a Brit. And
yeah, I was going to say, he's from England as well.
Yeah, and I'll be doing the same thing. So Thomas Heaton would have to be, for my money, his production values are stunning in his all of his videos. He's based in the UK, shoots a lot of Lake District and that sort of stuff in Scotland, and this sort of stuff, Wales as well, where Popsys does as well. But it's he flies solo most of the time, Heaton, and a lot of the work he does, he quite often will just let his photography do the talking, which I really, really like. It's a very, very laid back, very peaceful way of presenting his work. I love it. It's really, really good, and he's got a nice sort of manner about him, the way he talks about his stuff as well.
Yeah,
and which was really contrasted by when the world went into lockdown, and he went and got himself a 4-wheel drive van, and then made videos about decking his van out so he could go and take photos once lockdown ended, which were actually really cool videos. I quite enjoyed because his production values were so high. That fed straight into what he was doing with his van work. So Thomas Heaton, absolutely awesome, really worth checking out.
Yeah, I think there's a theme there as well in regards to all the guys we've said so far is that their production value is really good. And I think, just going back to what I was saying about all these videos I've got hundreds of hours of videos of all these adventures, but got no idea of how putting it together, how to put a story together, how to make it interesting, and things like that. So they're not only fantastic photographers, and they all seem to be quite really lovely people as well, but they just have a great sense of humour about how they do it, and the production value sort of speaks for itself as well. The last one, I'm going to put out 1.5 more, because I'm going to do a special mention. It just came to me as I was doing this. But the other one I was going to do, which I've only actually come across in the last couple of weeks, I think we mentioned him in the last podcast we did, is the Photo Tripper. I think it's Gavin is his name. Or is it? I think it's Gavin.
I think so.
Gavin? It's not Brendan. You're Brendan. So yeah, he again, the first thing that sort of draws me to these guys is they've got a really comical sense of humour about how they go about doing their YouTube videos. But this guy is probably the top of the charts when it comes to comedy value or humour. He is just a pisser. So I have a different sense of humour to most people, but he always gets me chuckling away, and his partner goes along a fair few times, and she sort of plays into the whole narrative as well. But he had a funny dig the other week about Sony, because his Sony camera stopped working on the side of a camera, and Yeah, so he takes just stunning photos of where he goes. He's located in, I think he's up near Vancouver somewhere, isn't he?
British Columbia,
British Columbia,
Canada. So yeah, another Brit. And what I like about him is a lot of his. I mean, he obviously has a lot of downtime while he's waiting for photography. So he comes up with all these skits and stage stuff about, the pitfalls of photography and hanging out with his mates. And he's got some brilliant, very talented people who are always on his show, and they're always doing these little skits and stuff. But it sort of takes me back to, British television, like when I was growing up. I think there's a lot of a throwback to that, which, it's quite bawdy and it's quite funny. It's just, and again, he's forever taking the piss out of himself, which Aussies love. Yeah. So,
and I think it's a bit like our show that we do here. It's trying not to take this too seriously. And I think, again, there's a theme with all the people we've spoken about. They've all got a good sense of humour. But I think, when you start getting bogged down and getting way too serious about photography, it's when you start not enjoying it. Yeah, and that's the last thing you want to be doing. Yeah. So.
No, I want to have as much fun as possible while we're doing this. So, absolutely. Yeah, so Photo Tripper, definitely check him out. He's absolutely hilarious. Did you want to have your special mention?
Yeah, I'll do one more special mention, and this is actually a young guy or youngish guy from Tassie. His name's Rob Parsons, and he does, speaking of storytelling and things like that, so he's not necessarily a photographer, but he certainly takes a really nice photograph. He does some incredible drone photography and stuff, footage as well. But I've never actually met Rob. I've spoken to him a few times online. But he goes on some absolutely epic adventures around Tasmania. Sometimes a little bit irresponsibly the way he's gone out and done things. He may not have joined the Westpac Rescue Helicopter Club like someone else on this podcast. But he, for his production value and his storytelling value, really, really great storyteller and a lot of history about Tasmania. And special mention to one of the episodes they did. They went looking for an old Heaton pine logger who died 100 years ago, 120 years ago, and there was this grave that they made in the middle of nowhere in Tassie, and him and his mate went looking for it and found this grave. Or did they? I don't know. You might have to go watch the episode. But just a really great storyteller.
I've seen this guy. I know who you're talking about. I saw him recently. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, so definitely check Rob's stuff out. And like I said, it's not mainly so much a photography-based thing, but it's the footage and the imagery and the storytelling he does is A-class. So, he should be making bigger movies, in my opinion. But so that'd be my 3 plus a special mention.
Yeah, well, the last guy I'm going to mention, and the reason I'm bringing this guy up is because he's pretty much the reason I am so heavily into YouTube. I stumbled on him in about 2015, so going back quite a while now, and that's Casey Neistat. He's talk about storyteller on YouTube now. Not a photographer at all. He's a videographer. A lot of his when he used to do his daily vlog, it was all based in New York City. So completely away from landscape photography and what we like to talk about. But the reason I bring him up is because he got me into that genre where it was like, okay, this is a way that we can reach an audience with our own stuff and via YouTube. And he took it to the next level, particularly considering everything he did was handheld. It was SLR stuff. And he did all the edits himself. So everything was all... He was his production team. Yeah, it's not the case anymore. He's made squillions from YouTube, and now he's got heaps of people helping him out. But back when he started and was doing his daily vlogs and stuff, absolute inspiration. And really, really got hooked on what he did. At one point, 750 days in a row.
That's right.
He posted
he did like a daily thing.
He did a daily vlog for 750 days in a row, which is, if you think about that, it's absolutely ridiculous. He was editing for 4 hours a day. Every day for 750 days. It's phenomenal. I mean, he ended up with I think he's nudging 10 million subscribers now. So, but he jumped from 250,000 subscribers. He went to 1 million in about 6 months. He got his next million in 3 months after that. So he just grew exponentially. It was
he to me again. I think you might have put me onto him years ago when you first came across him. to me, he literally set the bar for vlogging and YouTubing. And like you said, he's not a photographer, but the style in which he shoots and his cutaways and fades in and all those kind of things.
Oh,
that's just been picked up by so many people.
Yeah,
so,
no, that's right. He was the trendsetter, that's for sure.
He was.
Getting out to...
How are we going for time?
Yeah, we're getting out a little bit, so we're just going to do a really quick Dear Cam. Dear Cam.
Yeah.
So this comes from Belinda in Geelong, which
local.
is just over yonder.
Right. Is Geelong regional?
Geelong is, at the moment, it's classified regional.
Right.
I can't for the life of me work out why we haven't been locked down in Geelong. I live in the city of Greater Geelong, as far as my shire, whatever you call it, is concerned.
Yeah.
Dear Cam.
Cool.
I am brand new to landscape photography, which is awesome. We love that. And I want to know if you think I should learn Photoshop first.
I would say no. If you're brand new to landscape photography, I'm assuming that Belinda maybe has some sort of background shooting other things, or maybe she's just brand new to the whole thing. But I don't think you need to know Photoshop to take landscape photography. I think the best way to get familiar with landscape photography is to get out into landscape and take photographs. So I don't use Photoshop much at all these days. I use Lightroom, and my edits are quite minimal in regards to my work. So I would say you don't need to be a Photoshop or Lightroom expert, but I think if you're looking to invest some time to learn something, I definitely learn more about your camera if you're new to it. Get the understanding of all the apertures and shutter speeds and dials and all the things that work. Read some more articles about landscape photography, watch shows like this, watch the guys that we just mentioned on YouTube. They'll certainly help you in regards to how to take better landscape photographs. But I don't think you need to learn how to manipulate an image first before taking it. So.
See, to me, this is where Photoshop has got to a point where people now think if they don't know how to edit photos, then they're going to be no good at photography. Like, it's ridiculous. It used to be the other way around. You take photos, and then this thing called Photoshop emerged. Oh, you mean I can make my photos look a little bit better, or I can edit this, or I can, you still have to be good at taking photos. So, Belinda, concentrate on things like composition. Focus more on that rather than worrying about too much about the actual editing of the photos. And to that end, you've said, should I learn Photoshop first? Photoshop has become the generic term for a photo editing software suite. So you don't necessarily have to learn Photoshop at all. And let me tell you, Belinda, Photoshop is an absolute behemoth. I've been using Photoshop for a long time, since the mid-90s. And I don't really know it that well. I mean, I know enough probably just to be dangerous, but I don't know enough. Like, I know people who know a hell of a lot more about Photoshop than I do, and have been using it a lot shorter than I have. But not overly necessary to be au fait with Photoshop.
I reckon, because like I said, we're running short on time, but this will roll into what Belinda's asking. Could roll into really what I've got coming up with this Bright Festival of Photography as well, because this Bright Festival of Photography is coming up on the 8th of October, running for 3 days or 2.5 days. But there's about 20 odd instructors and presenters, and one of the instructors at BFOP, as we call it, is Kieran Dobia, and she is an absolute wizard at Photoshop. She does mostly portrait and some really creative sort of portrait sessions, but if you want to learn about Photoshop and how it applies to photography, then someone like Kieran Dobia would be someone I'd tune into. So I'll do a bit of a plug for the BFOP weekend. Just wanted to mention, I didn't mention some of the presenters last week, so I'm going to plug a few away. I might not mention all of them. But we've got Dennis Smith, who's an Olympus visionary who does the light painting. So he has like the ball of the orb, and he spins all things around and uses some of the features that the Olympus cameras have. We've got Tom Putt, who's one of Australia's best landscape photographers, aerial photographers, all round relatively nice guy. He doesn't listen to this, so I can pay out on him anyway. Hi, Tom. Matt Crummings, who does incredible wildlife photography. He's going to be presenting there as well. Mika Boynton, speaking of Brighton, northeast Victoria, Mika's based up there, so she's an incredible landscape aerial photographer. Who else? We've got Adam Dyson. He's a good mate of mine who does lots of waterfall shots. So there's a few more. So if you want any details, BFOP Australia, so bfopaustralia.com.au. It'll have all the full list of the presenters. It's over 50 hours of instructions and workshops and God knows what else in between when we're doing our fun sessions at night. It's $120, $140 for the whole session. So get on it. You can sit at home. If you're unfortunately still in lockdown, you can watch it all live on Zoom. But they're just some of the people that are coming along. There's going to be some pretty cool workshops going on. There's horses involved. Last year, speaking to Karen Dobia, she had a duck she did a portrait of a duck sitting in a lounge room. It was incredible. So definitely have a look. I'll be there. I'll be here doing some live broadcasts all around Tassie.
I was going to say you left off the best presenter. You.
Yeah. Well. I'll put myself mid-range maybe. But yeah. So if you haven't seen or heard about it before, check the website. We'll put it in the show notes. Go have a look. It's a really good 2.5 days to chill out, and they record everything. You've got 6 months to watch it after the fact as well. So. Yeah.
Awesome. That actually looks really cool, and you to have such a concentration of very, very talented photographers all there wanting to teach you how to take photos. Get on board the BFOP Bright Festival of Photography website. Check it all out. We will put a link in description. If you have a DearCam question, please put it below in the comments or send it to us via our Facebook page, social medias all over the place. We will eventually one day have a website, won't we, Cam?
Yeah. We could get one going.
At some point. So that's it for the episode 14 of the Down South Photo Show. Hope you've enjoyed it. We will be, as far as camera and photo are concerned, my little business, with any luck, we will have our Ocean Grove store back open in the next couple of days. Our Torquay store, yes. Actually, by the time this goes out, I would say we'll be back up and running, no problem at all. Hopefully we can just get back into business as usual. Doing a lot of fantastic canvas work at the moment for some very talented local landscape photographers. So that's cool. At least we've got that going on, which is keeping me nice and busy as well. So. Check us out, cameraandphoto.com.au. Cameron,
I'll be checking you out because I'm going to send you some prints soon, and I have a pretty big announcement to make maybe next week on the next episode about something pretty incredible that's happening down here in Tassie with myself and another photographer in one aspect. But I'll give you more details of that next week about something that's opening up.
This is a teaser.
Exclusive. It's a teaser.
I like it. I like teasers. Keep them rolling into next week. All right, mate. Your website address is?
Easiest one is camblakphotography.com.au, and that'll take you to the website with all the workshops, prints, books, and all different types of things.
Nice. Well, thanks everyone for giving us an hour of your time this week. We will catch you for episode 15 next week. Over and out from the Down South Photo Show. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, guys. See you soon.